What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants have made a new free agency signing today, just days away from the 2023 NFL Draft. We heard all offseason long Joe Schoen saying that the Giants had to make it a priority to add some talent to their defensive line, bolster up that front seven, and start defending the run better. Well, today, the New York Giants made that signing to do exactly that by signing AShawn Robinson, veteran defensive tackle, formerly of the Los Angeles Rams, to a one-year, $8 million contract. Now, this could be a big signing for the Giants. This might be a starting level player, and it also can have pretty massive implications on what the Giants do in the draft in just a few short days. So, a big deal here for the Giants, and of course, we're going to go ahead, discuss the pros and the cons, and really the ramifications that this could have on the upcoming draft right now in today's episode. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel, and if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and also leave us a 5-star review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on the AShawn Robinson signing?
I could not be better, my friend. I could not be better. The Giants are building an interior defense for the ages. We all knew Wink Martindale's defense needed a little bit of support in the interior, and the Giants are doing just what is needed to make sure that our run defense is far better than it was last year. You watch back the games, you see Miles Sanders and some pretty crappy running backs destroying us. And is this finally the end of Boston Scott? Is this finally the end of Boston Scott ruining our lives twice a year? For God's sakes, we got to stop the little guy. And the Giants are bringing in some big guys to get it done. I'm really excited to see what AShawn Robinson can bring to this team. He is a proven run stopper. He has some tremendous grades. And the Giants went out and got, Raheem Nunez-Roche and AShawn Robinson. What do those two players have in common? They both won Super Bowls recently. How about that? Don't you love teams that just win Super Bowls and love players that are coming here that have that pedigree and know what it's like to make a run, know what it's like to contribute in a big moment? AShawn Robinson 2 years ago with the Los Angeles Rams and Nunez-Roche 3 years ago with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're seeing that, the Giants are looking for high pedigree, high character guys, and they're bringing in guys that are not only going to contribute on the field, but they're going to contribute in the locker room, and they're going to make sure that all of those youngsters across the board are well coached and well versed and ready to prepare and know how to prepare for the NFL and regular season games. We have a lot of rookies coming in next week. Of course, we have 10 selections, so maybe we move back, maybe we move forward, and that number could change. But I think that ultimately the Giants have a lot of great value in the draft, and I think that AShawn Robinson in solidifying this interior defense is going to be a really big thing for us, because you look at Leonard Williams, you look at Dexter Lawrence, and last year, Dexter Lawrence specifically was out of gas at times, and when he was, the second he came off the field, opposing teams ran all over us. Leonard Williams dealt with a lot of injuries last year. We had to rely on guys like DJ Davidson, who was a good player, but he was a rookie, so what do you expect from him? We had a lot of guys that should not have been playing. Remember the Danny Shelton days, like 2 years ago? That was a disaster. These guys are Super Bowl caliber players in the sense that they've been there, but they're some of the best depth pieces that you can find in terms of stopping the run. The Giants and Wink Martindale's defense are going to be far better, because the idea here is to make an opposing offense one-dimensional. And when you make opposing offense one-dimensional, you force them to throw the football. And if you know they're going to throw the football, you can scheme around that. If your front four guys can stop the run, and you go out and you get Bobby Okereke as your LB1, who's a really, really good tackler, has a lot of athleticism, better than anything we've had in a very long time at the position, we are going to be head and shoulders better in terms of stopping the run, which is going to help us in the secondary, because then we can plan for what's to come. Add another cornerback. It makes me think that the Giants are going to draft a CB in the first 2 rounds, maybe even in the first round, to help this cornerback group. There's a couple really good guys. I actually wrote today about DJ Turner, who's a really interesting prospect. I don't know if you know much about him, out of Michigan, but DJ Turner, one of the fastest guys in this draft class, 4.26 he ran. He had a 97th percentile athletic score, guys. This is a player that would be a tremendous addition next to Adoree Jackson that could compete with the Cordell Flott, compete with Aaron Robinson, and you have a lot of athleticism there to work with, and now you just need good coaching to get the best out of these players. But AShawn Robinson is a testament to the overall kind of mantra and the overall ideology behind this team. Stop the run, force opposing offenses to be one-dimensional. I'm excited to see kind of how that results in, hopefully, success in allowing our offense to be on the field a little bit longer. But how important do you think it is to have these interior guys, these depth pieces, these quality depth pieces, to assist in keeping Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams healthy for the longevity of the season?
Yeah, listen, I think that it's hugely important, especially when you're looking at the state of the NFC and particularly of the NFC East. There's one team to beat right now. If you're the New York Giants, if you're any team in the NFC or the NFC East, there's one team to beat, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Our hated rival, the team that I can't stand. That's the number one thing that I hate in this universe is the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans, right? That's how I feel about them. But right now, they are the team to beat, and we all have to swallow that tough pill and admit that. So right now, what the Giants need to do is figure out ways to beat Philadelphia. They need to be the team that can beat the Eagles because, listen, if the Giants are able to put together the winning formula here and beat Philadelphia, learn how to beat them in the regular season and in the postseason, then the Giants can become the team to beat. But right now, it's very tough to beat Philadelphia because they have a killer rushing attack, not just from the talent that they have in their backfield, but also the talent that they have at the quarterback position. Jalen Hurts is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL. They also have a great offensive line and they have great play callers that know how to scheme together a running game. Plus, as we approach this upcoming 2023 NFL draft, there's a chance that the Eagles add even more talent to this offense and land AShawn Robinson. If that happens, everybody's going to be terrified of facing Philadelphia, even more so than they were last year. So when you're looking at it from that standpoint, the number one objective for the Giants, you need to learn how to stop the run. You need to learn how to slow down Philadelphia. I mean, the Giants' struggles in run defense were just put on full display by Philadelphia 3 times this year, twice in the regular season, and then of course the one season-ending divisional round loss to Philadelphia from the New York Giants. So when you're looking at it from that standpoint, no team exposed the Giants' lack of a rush defense more than Philly. This signing and any signing that the Giants make, any move that the Giants make to bolster their front seven, it's got to have one end game in mind, and that end game is beating Philadelphia. So when you're looking at AShawn Robinson and what he provides to this team, he can help you stop the run. He can slow down that Philadelphia Eagles offense. He can slow down all of the offenses in the NFC and the NFC East in particular because there's a lot of great rushing attacks out there. And as you mentioned, yes, it's important to make a team one-dimensional, but also just looking at the state of the Giants' defensive line and who they had out there. Can you tell me who that third starting defensive lineman was for the Giants last year? No, you can't. No one knows because it was not a very high quality player and it was a rotation of players. But right now the Giants, I think with AShawn Robinson, have found their third starter on the defensive line. We all know Dexter Lawrence. We all know Leonard Williams. These are two of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. But who was the third player on that line? It wasn't even a player who was quality enough to be a starter on most teams. But now the Giants not only added depth there with Nunez Roche, they also are adding a bona fide starter in AShawn Robinson. So you're talking about Dexter Lawrence in the middle, Leonard Williams beside him, and then of course you also have now AShawn Robinson beside him. So this is really the third starter on the Giants defensive line here, and a very, very important and impactful signing when you look at it from that standpoint, because now you're not calling upon a guy like Nunez Roche to be one of your starters. He can continue to be a depth piece because that's what he's best at. He's a quality depth player. You don't want him out there as your starter in your base defense as one of your 3 defensive linemen, but you do want a guy like AShawn Robinson there. And now, of course, AShawn Robinson, older veteran player, Nunez Roche, that's his role. When any of these guys need a break, he can go in there. But these are your 3 starters now on the Giants defensive line. And I think that this is what I want to lead into next, Alex. I think that this signing takes away a huge point of need for the Giants as they enter this upcoming draft. I don't think that defensive line needs to be a main target. I think you can go into this draft class, and I know we were talking a lot about, well, the Giants can really go in a multitude of directions with the 25th overall pick, including defensive line. I don't think they need to anymore. I think you could probably scratch off defensive line in the first round and say, well, let's go ahead and look back at that wide receiver and cornerback spot. So the Giants, this was a big, big need for them entering this offseason. Again, looking at how they lost and got eliminated from the postseason, the Giants needed to fix this, and I think that AShawn Robinson goes a long way towards being the solution for the Giants' run defense woes. Again, maybe they need to add more linebacker talent, but now they can do that. They don't need to go defensive line early in this draft. But Alex, what are your thoughts on this signing and how it can really impact the Giants' draft plans as we head into the 2023 NFL draft?
Well, look, I feel as though the Giants now, if you're going to draft a DT, let's say in this first or second round, if the first round you're expecting them to be a starter, second round you're probably expecting them to be a starter, at least compete and be high-end depth. Right now, I kind of feel like I like our defensive line. I think they're going to restructure Leonard Williams' contract probably within the next couple days. They don't have probably a couple weeks from now because they have to. They don't have to sign all the rookies immediately. But that's where the money's going to come from, right? Leonard Williams' contract. There's going to be $10 million there some way somehow they're going to use that restriction to really gather the money to sign our draft class, which will probably usually is around $10 million. So that's where I think it'll come from personally. And with that being the case, I do believe that, the draft is going to be heading in a direction where I could see it going cornerback and I could go seeing receiver. Those are the two positions where I think the Giants go. I think they go receiver or they go cornerback. Depends on how the draft falls. Depends on how many first round grades they have. Maybe they want to move back. We've talked about this over and over and over again. But it's really just kind of have to see what happens at the moment. And I think that's ultimately what's gonna be the determining factor for what they do. But when it comes to this defense, I really, really like how Joe Schoen has structured a lot of these contracts moving forward, and not just the defense, but specifically with Paris Campbell and some of those other guys, including AShawn Robinson. You look at their deals, right? So AShawn Robinson signed a 1-year, $8 million deal, but the $8 million is incentivized, right? It's worth up to a maximum of $8 million. So he's not getting paid $8 million. He's got to hit some marks to get there. We talked about Paris Campbell's deal pretty, intensely and went through the details, and ultimately you see he has to have a career year to actually reach the majority of those levels of payment. And I think he gets paid like per game he's active. He gets paid for having a career high, I think 700 yards. He needs like 7 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns to start getting incentivized bonuses. And then AShawn Robinson's the same thing. So I kind of feel like I love how Joe Schoen has structured a lot of these deals. It's going to get the most out of players. He's convinced them that if they want to get paid what they think they're worth, they're going to have to perform, And ultimately, I think that's a good thing because AShawn Robinson's not going to play a whole ton of snaps. He's not going to play 700-800 snaps. He's going to play probably 400 or 500 snaps for us, given that everyone stays healthy, knock on wood. And that's a fine reality. AShawn Robinson playing 400 or 500 snaps, maybe he gets a couple sacks, maybe he gets a certain tackle number, and the incentives probably land in that range. They're probably like you have to hit a certain tackles number, you have to play a certain amount of games, a certain amount of snaps, whatever it might be, and you'll see him get some of those bonuses and incentives that are built into the contract. But I love how Joe Schoen has structured the contracts this offseason. There are a lot of 1-year deals, and it gives them time to draft supplements and then train them essentially and develop them. And I think that's where we're going with this. You don't need to sign multi-year contracts across the board all the time. Sometimes you just need 1-year deals until you can develop your own talent, and then they kind of blossom and take over that job. And that's kind of what I see AShawn Robinson as. I feel as though he's a 1-year nice player to have. He'll help stop the run, and we develop someone of our own. Maybe it's DJ Davidson coming off the injury. Maybe we draft somebody. It could be a myriad of different options for the Giants to exercise. But right now, I'm loving the roster construction. I'm loving the financial handouts that he's giving and how incentivized these deals are. So that's very, very exciting to me. But what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the financial portion of it and how well Joe Schoen is kind of attacking and strategizing around keeping the salary cap hit low, but also trying to get the most out of players by saying you got to hit these marks, you got to have a really good season to actually make the most of your contract in this 1-year deals?
Listen, I've been extremely impressed with the way that Joe Schoen has structured all of the contracts this offseason. I mean, I've sung his praise a million times. I think that every contract that he's handed out this offseason has been very, very impressive, starting with the Daniel Jones deal. I mean, look at that one. That was phenomenal. The Giants could get out of that in 2 years. If they decide that they change their mind and Daniel Jones is not the franchise quarterback in 2 years, they can move on from him and find a new franchise quarterback. I know, easier said than done, but they've given themselves that flexibility. And that's really what this whole offseason has been for the Giants. Contracts with flexibility, all of them, including the Darren Waller trade. They inherited that deal. There was no dead cap after this upcoming season. They restructured it, sure, but it's still extremely flexible. They can get out of that deal with ease. Now this AShawn Robinson signing, a low-cost deal for a very high-quality player if he plays the full season. But again, a lot of injury history there, a veteran player. You don't want to pay him the full price of the contract if you don't have to. So go ahead with the flexible deal. That's really the one word that I would use to describe Joe Schoen this offseason. Flexible. Every contract has been flexible. He's been flexible through his mantra and the way that he's been structuring this team, the signings that he's made. I think that he's really surprised a lot of people with a lot of the moves that he's made. We've talked about in the past, the Giants are probably not going to be the team to sacrifice draft picks for veteran players, and in the past we haven't seen them do that with Joe Schoen, right? But then they go ahead and they trade a top 100 pick for Darren Waller, and that was a great deal. Everyone sung his praises for that deal. Flexible. Joe Schoen has just been flexible all offseason long, and I I think that's really why we all feel so confident in this upcoming Giants team. And this signing is no different than that, no different than the Paris Campbell signing, the Darius Slayton signing, all of these deals that he's made. I mean, it's just been a very impressive offseason for Joe Schoen. Only his second offseason as a general manager, but he's really instilled a lot of confidence in me, and I know he's instilled a lot of confidence in most Giants fans, and that's a really good thing when we're heading into this upcoming draft. It's a crucial draft class. The Giants, you could argue, are a few big pieces away from being a contender. And so once we move into this draft, I feel confident that Joe Schoen's going to walk out of it with added talent that helps us win more games. And that's a really good place to be, because let's think back to 2-3 years ago. Did we really feel that way when we were heading into draft season with Dave Gettleman? I mean, we thought, a couple times some signings would pan out, Kenny Golladay being one of them. We were confident in that, but we were wrong, of course, and so was Dave Gettleman. But right now, I feel like we're all just collectively confident in the Giants and the direction that they're moving in. Brian Dable and Mike Kafka, Wink Martindale, and of course, Joe Schoen really running the show here. There's a lot of confidence in the way that the Giants are building right now, so it's going to be really exciting getting into this draft. I've also seen a few rumors are swirling around. The Giants might do something crazy, might not do something crazy. I thought that report was just so ridiculous because everyone's going to freak out about that, but it was literally just saying we don't know what the Giants are going to do. It was Kate Mara, one of the Mara relatives, said that on Good Morning Football, I believe. But really, just taking a look at the Giants moving into this draft, I'm very confident. I'm very excited by some of these rumors. I guess before we wrap up, Alex, I know that we saw Brandon Aiyuk is not likely to return to San Francisco. It sounds like their general manager is looking to move on from him. Then we're also hearing that the Giants are maybe swirling around the trade market. Maybe that's the connection. Maybe it's just the fact that the Giants, maybe they are trying to be aggressive and move up in the draft like we mentioned a couple episodes ago. But before we wrap, after discussing AShawn Robinson and now looking at the state of the Giants roster here as we head into this upcoming draft, how do you feel? Are you confident, of course, in Joe Schoen? And do you think there's any smoke behind the fire or fire behind the smoke as we hear some of these crazy rumors start to heat up before the draft?
I mean, I listened to the little press conference that the 49ers GM had, and essentially, he's like, we love Brandon. We want him to be a part of this team, but I'm not going to go into it. It was very, vague and very, he didn't sound like he was super committed. When a GM wants a player to stay, he's like, we love Brandon. We want him to be here. We see him as a long-term solution, blah, 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 blah. And it's like they keep going and they make it known. It didn't sound like that to me. I feel like if there's an opportunity for the Giants, they may pull the trigger. And he's a tremendous player, and he would fit our scheme like a glove. So would I do it when I trade 25, which is in a really bad draft class? By the counts of the analysts and whatnot, this draft class is one of the worst over the past couple seasons, right? Now that doesn't mean these players won't pan out. Doesn't mean we don't know anything until we see what they end up becoming. But Brandon Aiyuk is an established talent in a run first offense, and he would get a lot of targets with the Giants, and he would probably be a stud for us. So would I trade 25 for Brandon Aiyuk? Probably. I think I would. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how things unfold. Kate Mara is saying, look, the statement was what? The Giants may do something crazy on draft night, and they may not. Water's wet. They're gonna trade their draft pick, or they're gonna draft someone at 25. That was always the only two options. What else is gonna happen? The trading back is kind of a realistic thing. It's nothing crazy, but we'll see. Maybe they'll do something way out there in left field that we just don't anticipate. But right now I'm pretty excited about this Giants draft class. There's some players that I like, and if Brandon Aiyuk was on the board and 49ers are trying to trade him, and the Giants have an opportunity to snag him, maybe they go after him because he's a little bit better than Jerry Jeudy in terms of staying a little healthier, and I think he would fit our offense like a glove, like I mentioned. So it'd be fun to see him in Big Blue, and I know a lot of fans feel the same way.
Yeah, and I'm definitely one of those fans. I've had a huge interest in Brandon Aiyuk really since the start of the offseason. And again, it's just exciting seeing all of these rumors start to fly up right before the draft. The Aaron Rodgers trade just happened. Who knows who's getting traded next, right? New York Giants could be the next team to really pull off a surprise. And, make their big showing right before the draft night. But we'll see what happens. And of course, we're going to continue to update you all on everything New York Giants related and NFL draft related right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode and comment your thoughts on the topic down below. And also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.